She already picked you before you worked up the courage to say hello. Before you rehearsed that smooth opening line in the bathroom mirror 17 times. Before you even thought about making a move, she had already made hers. And the brutal, hilarious, honestly kind of beautiful truth. Most men have absolutely no idea when this happens. They stand there clueless while a woman is practically holding up a neon sign that says, "I chose you. Now do something about it." So, right now I'm going to tell you the one sign, the only sign that confirms she already made her decision. And no, it's not what the internet has been feeding you. Here's something that might sting a little bit, but I promise it's going to change everything for you. A study published in the Journal of Nonverbal Behavior found that in the majority of romantic interactions, it was the woman who initiated contact first, not the man. Not through some bold dramatic movie scene approach, but through subtle, calculated, almost invisible signals that most men completely miss. Dr. Monica Moore, a psychologist who spent years researching courtship behavior, documented over 52 different non-verbal signals women use to indicate interest. 52. And yet, the average man picks up on maybe 3 or 4 of them on a good day with perfect lighting and a Red Bull in his system. So, here's where things get interesting. Out of all 52 of those signals, there is a single behavioral pattern that separates casual friendliness from genuine selection. And when I say selection, I mean she has mentally, emotionally, and energetically already placed you in a different category from every other man in the room. She's not flirting. She's not being polite. She's not just being nice. She has chosen. And once you understand what that looks like, you will never second guess where you stand again. But I need to warn you about something before we go any further. This sign is counterintuitive. It doesn't look the way you think it does. And the reason most men miss it is because they've been trained by movies, social media, and bad dating advice to look for all the wrong things. So stay with me here because what I'm about to break down is going to flip your entire understanding of female attraction on its head. Let's start with the mess. The absolute circus of bad information floating around about how to tell if a woman is interested. You've probably heard all of it. She plays with her hair. She laughs at your jokes. She touches your arm. And sure, those things can be signs of interest. But here's the problem. They can also be signs of absolutely nothing. I play with my hair when I'm bored. I laugh at jokes out of social obligation all the time. I've touched a man's arm while telling him his shirt had a stain on it. None of that meant I was selecting him for anything other than a laundry tip. This is the trap. Men are out here reading surface-level body language cues and building entire fantasy relationships on them. And I'm not saying that to be harsh. I'm saying it because I've watched it happen in real time. And it's both painful and a little bit funny. A friend of mine, let's call him Daniel, once told me with absolute conviction that a barista was into him because she drew a smiley face on his coffee cup. He went back to that cafe every single day for 3 weeks. Ordered drinks he didn't even want. Spent probably $80 on oat milk lattes he secretly hated. And then one day he finally asked her out and she said, "Oh, I draw smiley faces on everyone's cup. It's kind of my thing." Daniel was heartbroken. The smiley face was not the sign. And this happens constantly because men are taught to look for tiny isolated gestures instead of understanding the one pattern that actually confirms selection. So, let me take you there. Now, before I reveal the sign itself, and trust me, I'm getting there. You need to understand why women select the way they do. Because this isn't random. It's not luck. It's deeply rooted in evolutionary psychology and behavioral science. And once you see the framework, the sign becomes impossible to miss. Dr. David Buss, one of the most cited evolutionary psychologists in the world, has spent decades studying mate selection across cultures. His research, published in works like The Evolution of Desire, shows that women are naturally more selective in choosing partners because from a biological standpoint, the cost of a poor choice is significantly higher for women than for men. This isn't opinion. This is data, collected from over 10,000 people across 37 cultures worldwide. What this means in practical terms is that when a woman selects a man, she doesn't do it carelessly. She doesn't do it on a whim. There is a process, an internal evaluation that happens sometimes within seconds, sometimes over days or weeks. And the outcome of that evaluation is binary. Either you're in or you're out. There's no middle ground. Now, here's where it gets fascinating. When a woman has completed that evaluation and decided, yes, this one, her behavior shifts in one very specific, very measurable way. And it's not the hair twirling, it's not the prolonged eye contact, it's not even physical touch, although that can follow later. The sign is something far more telling. And the reason most dating advice never talks about it is because it requires you to pay attention to something most people completely overlook. Alright, here it is. The only sign that confirms she already chose you. She creates reasons to stay in your proximity even when she has every logical reason to leave. That's it. That's the sign. And I know it sounds simple, but let me explain why this one behavior is the master key to understanding female selection and why nothing else even comes close. When a woman is being polite, she'll engage with you in the moment. She'll answer your questions. She'll smile. She might even laugh. But the second there's a natural exit point in the conversation, a pause, an interruption, her friend calling her over, her phone ringing, she takes it, she leaves, not because she dislikes you, but because there's no internal pull keeping her there. The evaluation came back neutral. And neutral means exit. But when a woman has chosen you, she doesn't leave. Even when the conversation hits a lull, even when her friend is waving her over, even when she technically has somewhere to be, she stays. She lingers. She finds reasons, sometimes hilariously flimsy reasons, to remain in your space. And this is not something she's doing consciously most of the time. This is behavioral gravity. It's the emotional equivalent of a planet pulling an object into its orbit. She might not even realize she's doing it, but her body, her energy, her attention, all of it is anchored to you. Let me give you a real example. I have a girlfriend, brilliant woman, very self-aware, not the type to lose her composure over anyone. She met a guy at a mutual friend's birthday party. They talked for maybe 10 minutes near the drinks table. Normal conversation, nothing earth-shattering. But then the host called everyone to the backyard for cake. My friend started walking toward the door and then she stopped. She literally stopped mid-step, turned around, and said to this man, "Actually, do you know if there's more ice inside? I should probably check." There was no reason to check for ice. Nobody had asked about ice. The ice situation was perfectly fine. But she manufactured a reason to stay near him for another few minutes. And when I teased her about it later, she turned red and said, "I don't even know why I said that. It just came out." That right there, that's the sign. That selection confirmed. Not because of what she said, but because of what she did. She resisted the natural pull to exit and created a reason, however ridiculous, to remain close. Now, let me tell you why this particular behavior is more reliable than every other so-called signal combined. Hair touching, eye contact, laughing at jokes, all of those can be performative. Women are socialized from a very young age to be pleasant, accommodating, and warm in social situations. A 2016 study from the Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin found that women are significantly more likely than men to engage in polite social behaviors, even when they have zero romantic interest. So when a woman laughs at your joke, it might mean she thinks you're hilarious. Or it might mean she was raised to be polite and she's just running her default social programming. But staying, lingering, creating reasons not to leave, that is not a social courtesy. Nobody teaches you to do that. There is no etiquette rule that says when a man is talking about his fantasy football league, you must remain standing near the cheese platter and pretend to need more ice. That behavior comes from somewhere deeper, somewhere involuntary. And that's exactly why it's the most honest signal a woman can give. Dr. Helen Fisher, a biological anthropologist and senior research fellow at the Kinsey Institute, has talked extensively about what she calls the chemistry of love. Her brain scan studies show that when someone is genuinely attracted to another person, the brain's reward system, the same system that responds to food, music, even certain drugs, lights up. And one of the behavioral consequences of that neurological response is approach motivation. The brain literally pushes you toward the person. It creates an almost magnetic pull that makes leaving feel uncomfortable, even wrong. So when she stays, when she hovers, when she circles back to you at a party after she already said goodbye, that's not her being friendly. That's her brain's reward system saying, "No, stay here. This one matters." Now, this sign doesn't always look the same. It adapts depending on the context. So let me walk you through a few scenarios so you know exactly what to watch for. In person, at a social event, she'll stay in your conversational orbit even when the group shifts. People will move to another area and she'll hang back. Or she'll leave briefly and then find a reason to come back to where you are. Maybe she forgot her drink. Maybe she wanted to grab a napkin. The excuse doesn't matter. The return does. At work or school, she'll show up in spaces where you are more often than coincidence would explain. She'll take breaks when you take breaks. She'll walk past your desk on her way to nowhere. She'll volunteer for the same projects. And if you pay attention, you'll notice that her schedule mysteriously starts to align with yours. That's not an accident. That's selection in stealth mode. Over text. This one is huge because texting is where most men lose the plot entirely. When a woman has chosen you over text, she doesn't let conversations die. Even when the exchange has reached a natural conclusion, you've both said goodnight, the topic is finished, there's nothing left to say, she'll send one more message, a random question, a meme, "Uh-oh, wait. I forgot to tell you something." She's creating reasons to stay in your digital proximity because the pull is the same, even through a screen. I actually had a friend who was texting a guy she was crazy about, and she literally sent him a photo of a potato she saw at the grocery store that looked funny just so she had an excuse to keep the conversation going. A potato. That's how strong the pull was. She couldn't explain it logically. She just knew she didn't want the conversation to end. On social media, she's watching your stories consistently. She's reacting to things you post. She's commenting on old photos, which by the way means she scrolled back through your feed, which is the digital equivalent of lingering at the party. Nobody scrolls back through someone's Instagram grid unless they're already invested. That's a time commitment. That's selection. Alright, so now you know the sign, but recognition without action is useless. So let me tell you what to do when you notice her staying, lingering, creating reasons to be near you. First, and this is critical, do not panic. Do not suddenly become performative or try to impress her. The worst thing you can do when a woman has already chosen you is start auditioning. She already made her decision. You don't need to convince her. You need to confirm her choice by being exactly who she was already drawn to. Second, match her energy with escalation. If she's staying near you, close the gap slightly, not aggressively, not in a way that makes her uncomfortable, but with warmth. Move the conversation from group level to personal. Ask her something real. Share something about yourself that's slightly vulnerable. The fact that she's still standing there means she wants to go deeper. Let her. Third, and this is the part most men fumble. Create the next opportunity. She gave you the signal. Now give her the bridge. Say something like, "This conversation shouldn't end here. Let's continue it over coffee this week." Simple, direct, no games. She's already chosen. All you're doing is opening the door. She's been standing in front of. Research from the archives of sexual behavior supports this. By the way, studies show that women who display prolonged proximity behavior are significantly more receptive to direct invitations than women who show only surface-level flirtation cues. In other words, when she's lingering, the green light is already on. You just have to drive. Now, there's a flip side to all of this that I need to address because it's just as important. The number one Mistake men make when they recognize this sign is waiting too long to act on it. Here's what happens. A man notices she's staying close. He feels the energy. He knows something is there. And instead of doing something about it, he tells himself, I'll wait. I'll play it cool. I don't want to come on too strong. And so he waits and waits and waits. And eventually she stops staying. She stops lingering. Not because she lost interest overnight, but because she interpreted his inaction as rejection. This is a tragedy that plays out constantly, and both sides walk away confused. She thinks, I literally stood next to that man for 45 minutes, and he didn't make a move. He's clearly not interested. And he thinks, she left. I guess she wasn't into me after all. Meanwhile, the connection that was right there, fully charged and ready, just evaporates because nobody bridged the gap. A study from psychological science found that people tend to underestimate how much others are attracted to them, a phenomenon researchers call the liking gap. This means that even when all the signs are screaming, she chose you, your brain will try to convince you that you're misreading the situation. Don't listen to that voice. If she's staying when she could be leaving, she's telling you everything you need to know. Let me leave you with this thought because I think it's the most important part of everything I've shared today. Being chosen by a woman is not about being the tallest, the richest, the funniest, or the most conventionally attractive man in the room. Dr. Moore's research showed that women's selection signals were not consistently directed at the men who were objectively most attractive by societal standards. They were directed at the men who made them feel something. Safety, curiosity, warmth, a sense that this person sees them, really sees them in a way others don't. That's what triggers the lingering. That's what makes her stay. Not your jawline, not your bank account. Something far less tangible and far more powerful. A resonance, a feeling that she can't quite name, but also can't walk away from. And here's the beautiful part. You don't have to manufacture that. You can't actually. It either happens or it doesn't. But what you can do is stop being so focused on performing and start being present enough to notice when it's already happening. Because chances are at some point in your life, maybe even right now, a woman has been standing next to you creating flimsy excuses about ice and potatoes hoping you'd notice. So notice and then act. Everything I just told you comes down to one fundamental shift in how you read women. Stop looking for what she does and start paying attention to where she stays. Actions can be faked. Presence cannot. And when a woman gives you her presence voluntarily, repeatedly against all logical reasons to leave, that is the purest confirmation of selection you will ever receive. Now, here's what I need from you, and it's not a subscription reminder. It's something that actually matters. The next time you're in a conversation with a woman tonight, tomorrow, this weekend, I want you to test this. Pay attention to whether she leaves at the first natural exit point or whether she stays. Just observe. And when you see it, when you catch that moment where she lingers, come back to this video and drop one word in the comments. Stayed. That's it. One word. I want to see how many of you start noticing what was always right in front of you. And honestly, I think the number is going to be staggering. But here's the thing. Recognizing that she chose you is only half the equation. What you do in the moments right after she signals her interest, that's what determines whether she keeps choosing you or whether you become another missed connection she tells her friends about over wine. And one of the most powerful moments in early attraction, the one that can permanently anchor you in her mind, is the first time she initiates physical closeness. The first hug, the way you respond to that single moment, can either make you unforgettable or make you forgettable in seconds. And I actually broke this down in a video that's showing on your screen right now. It's called She Hugs You, Then What? Do this to stay on her mind. If you just spent this entire video learning how to recognize when she's chosen you, then you absolutely need to watch that one next because it shows you exactly how to handle the moment that comes right after. The moment that seals everything. Go watch it now. Your future self will thank you for